Part 121. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1202. Escape. It's not surprising that the big black dog said this. But now, even Sister Tao says this? Pantao, what do you mean? The real dragon was angry. Even the old hen looked at the peach tree in confusion. The big black dog was even more confused and said, Sister Tao, you want me to take everyone to escape? Dosha said lightly. Yes, take the 10 gods, 10 spirits, and 10 medicines, escape, and survive. The big black dog looked at the peach tree for a long time, then suddenly gritted his teeth and said, Wow, okay, this time I won't escape alone, everyone will escape with me. After saying that, it turned around and said, Damn fat man, pack your things, it will be too late if you don't run away. Wu Date and others did not move, but looked at the peach tree. Sister Tao, what happened? Xuanhuan asked. Dosha said softly. Don't ask any questions, just stay alive and stay alive at all costs. If you live, the master will win. Hearing this, Xuanhuan and others were still confused. Wow, hurry up and leave. I'm warning you. Sister Tao has already said a lot, the secret must not be leaked. Don't harm yourself. If you listen to the truth and bear the consequences, I will not be able to protect you by then. At this time, the big black dog also went all out and cursed loudly. Sisters in Taos. Walk. Stay alive. Duguyuking, Linjuchhan, and others all made decisions. They packed up immediately. Lu Rang went to bring Nanfan's divine blood grass, Zhang Li's 9-turn treasure bamboo, and the world tree. Linjuchhan brought Tianlang into his Taoist scenery. Others were also packing various things, including bottles and cans in the kitchen, pens, ink, paper and inkstones in the study, as well as mud and well water in the courtyard. Soon, under the urging of the big black dog, everyone walked out of the small courtyard. Looking back, everyone took a deep look at the 4 words Wu Er Xianting on the small courtyard. They were all reluctant to leave, but they still left resolutely. Master, are you traveling far away? At the entrance of the village, the second uncle was basking in the sun. When he saw the group of people, he smiled slightly and spoke. Yes, second uncle, do you want to come with us? Wu Date spoke, but the second uncle waved his hand and said, Go ahead, young people are still trying to make a difference. We are old and don't want to leave. It's right here. You guys have a good time. When you are done, just remember to come back and see us. The smile on the second uncle's face was free and comfortable, and he said, Go, the second uncle wants to continue to bask in the sun. Everyone felt a little heavy for no reason, but they still turned around and left. At the entrance of the village, a plum tree suddenly flew out of its own accord and landed in the scenic spot of Wu Date Road. This is. Everyone was surprised. Sister Xianning's plum tree, Master planted it at the entrance of the village. Now, will it leave with us? They all had a premonition of something wrong. However, as soon as he left the village entrance, the big black dog smelled something. He looked ahead and said, Everyone outside the village is enveloped in silence. Anyone who steps in will be left in the cold. At this moment, in the village behind them, they saw an ancient giant tree rising into the sky and transforming into a woman in white. She was unparalleled in beauty, and her aura was so powerful that it could crush the stars. With a wave of her jade hand, in front of Wu Date and others, suddenly there was an extra road, with peach leaves and peach blossoms everywhere. Sister Tao is invincible. Sister Tao is the eternal God. The big black dog ran up directly, and the others hurriedly followed. The road disappeared directly, and the figures of Wu Date and others disappeared. At the entrance of the village, the second uncle had just picked up his crutches. When he saw this scene, he suddenly smiled and said, I wanted to use this old life to show the way for these young people, but now I don't have to use it. Peach tree, it's amazing. He lay down and continued to bask in the sun, with a smile on his lips. At some point, Uncle Zhang, who was carrying the plow, sat down on the roadbed next to him and said, After the magic witch left, you and I slept for an eternity. Now the dam has closed the door. Haven't you had enough sleep? The second uncle said calmly. Go on and sleep. It's boring to be the supreme. It's fun to be the second uncle. As for Xiao Li, there is Xiao Li on the other side of the dike. If the sky falls, he will hold it up. Upon hearing this, Uncle Zhang pondered for a moment and said, It makes sense. I also continued to plow the fields. In the small courtyard. Now that there are only 3 of you and me left, you should be able to tell us what is going on. The real dragon looked towards the peach tree. The old hen is also waiting. As long as the master has not given up the origin of chaos, his state of mind will become, but now, the only people who can break the master's state of mind are those whom the master cares about. The peach tree's clear voice sounded, and he no longer had any scruples, saying, The purpose of coming from the other side of the dam is to stop the master from accomplishing the final step. All the ways return to the mortal world, all the ways return to silence, the difference between the two is just a thought. As long as they live, the master's state of mind will not be broken. Otherwise, the master has laid out the plan for eternity, and a single thought can lead to a mortal path and a peaceful path. That would be the true darkness of eternity. Hearing this, Feng Mu and Zhen Long were both slightly startled. When did you know so much? The real dragon is full of surprises. There is not much difference in the cultivation level between the 3 of them. Even if Doshu is a little stronger, he still won't be able to see so clearly. Peach Tree seemed to smile and said, Of course I was told that. Who? Real dragons and phoenixes are all doubtful. Doshu said, who is closest to the master in the small courtyard. The real dragon and phoenix mother were all shocked. They all thought of it at the same time. What about that dog? Can you trust it? Can it protect them? The real dragon is still full of doubts. Doshu was very calm and said, Of course I can trust it. It said it is second in the world. If you don't believe it, do you believe it? You can't even be ranked in the top 5. When the real dragon heard this, he immediately went crazy with frustration and said, That damn dog brags all day long, do you believe this? And at this moment, Taixuan continent adjacent to Grey Mist continent is on a high peak. Xuanhuan has entered the gate of 10,000 daos, and I don't know when I will be able to return. On the top of the mountain, watching the illusory road leading to the gate of 10,000 daos disappear, Nanfan murmured. One day in the gate of 10,000 daos is 10,000 years in the world. Yun 11 said, if everything goes well, when Xuanhuan reappears, she may be at a certain height. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Now, what they lack most is indeed time. Entering it with peace of mind, one can view countless Taoist knowledge, and the other, being able to have enough time to digest it, is also a good thing. The Desolate Sky Alliance's army is almost here, I'll go first. Zhang Shui spoke. Xuanhuan is in charge of the gate of 10,000 daos, while she has to deal with the Grey Emperor. Yun 11 nodded and said, let's wait for the dark world to come. In the long river of time, a world of black mist gradually approaches reality along the road of time. The illusory world has almost appeared in front of the world. At this moment, the tens of millions of troops from the Desolate Sky Alliance finally arrived at the border of Grey Mist continent. Huo Ling Mu Jianing, Mu Wanqing, Wu Xiaocan, Yun Chen, Chang Sun Chang Qing, Wu Jianghe, Ji Wuden, Chang Sun Bumi, etc., many masters are here. The Grey Emperor surrenders to the enemy and shall be punished and killed. Give an order. The war breaks out. Good night. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1203. On pale rice paper. From nothing comes something, the peak is towering, rising from the clouds, standing at the end of the earth, the years form a stream, and cause and effect become a mist. The vast mountains and forests are like the endless vastness of time, the cycle of life and death, the succession of prosperity and decline, and the vastness has no end. A road stretches away, and there are mountain villages there, with 8 or 9 fertile fields, endless traffic, chickens and dogs smelling each other, and smoke curling from cooking stoves. It seems that it has transcended the grand years and become a world of its own. At this moment, the scroll has been divided into 9 parts. 8 points are used to paint the colors of the mountains, and 1 point is used to create a small mountain village. Although this 8-point mountain scenery is vast and charming, although the scenery is infinite, it seems to have become the foil of the small mountain village at this moment. The small mountain village is not on the highest peak, not in the center of the picture, but it is like a red plum on the top of a green tree branch or a bright moon on the vast sea. The dead green trees are alive because of a little red plum, the lonely sea is alive because of a bright moon. At the highest point here, a picture of the ordinary is drawn. Seeing the completion of the painting written by Li Fan, Zhizhe suddenly sighed and said, "It is indeed a good painting. Is this painting finished?" Li Fan smiled slightly and said, "There's still 1 point left to write." He waved his pen calmly, and the tip of his pen suddenly turned from the small mountain village and landed on the highest peak where they were. On the top of the mountain, he drew the old tree that had been dead for who knows how many years. At this moment, the whole painting suddenly took on another meaning. Among the layers of distant mountains, this old tree looks like an octogenarian, looking at the small mountain village in the distance, like a homesick wanderer. The square house is more than 10 acres, with 8 or 9 thatched houses. The elms and willows are shaded on the back eaves, and the peach and plum blossoms are in front of the hall. The distant village is warm, and the smoke in the ruins is lingering. Dogs bark deep in the alleys, and roosters crow on top of the mulberry trees. There is no dust in the courtyard. There is room for leisure in the empty room. Li Fan spoke softly and said the last sentence. After being in a cage for a long time, you can return to nature. He raised his eyes to look at Zhizhe, smiled and said, "If you live here for a long time, see the highest scenery, and watch the rise and fall of the sea of clouds, this is your cage." The lonely man thought and said, "You are living in the village, experiencing the fireworks of the world and the changes in the mortal world. This is also your cage." Li Fan smiled and said, "You are not a fish, I know the joy of fish. Neither you nor I can convince the other party, because neither you nor I have experienced the path the other party takes. Why don't you follow me back to the village and spend 3 to 5 years? Go back to the village. There will be houses to protect you from the mountain breeze, delicious food to fill your hunger, good wine to drive away sorrow, and 1 or 2 old friends to relieve your loneliness." The lonely one said, "I'm a little older than you, and I've walked a little longer than you. I've experienced all of these things before." He didn't know what he was recalling in his eyes, and said, "But I admit, your proposal still makes my heart move. I will follow you back to the village to feel the warmth of the world, but you have to follow me to observe the ups and downs of life and death, to experience the heart and soul. No matter how you look at it, I have made a profit." He smiled. Li Fan also smiled, stretched out his hand and said, "Please." The lonely one said, "Please." The 2 of them finished speaking. Suddenly, they disappeared from where they were. On the top of the mountain, there is only an old pine tree that has been dead for an unknown number of years. The cold wind from the universe blows, biting and freezing. "Where's the master?" Subakian spoke, and she looked around with a hint of panic in her eyes. They went to the painting. Xialing, on the other hand, murmured and stepped forward. She looked at the painting that Li Fan had just left with his own hands. Wherever they looked, they could clearly see that there were two more people on the mountain peak in Li Fan's painting. Surprisingly, it is Li Fan and Jizhe. In the painting, the lonely man is heading to a small mountain village. But Li Fan was sitting under the pine tree. Is this a virtual world? Subakian asked. No. Master's paintings have blended with reality, and the place he is in is also reality. Every change in the reality we live in will be reflected in the world in the painting. Xialing murmured, moreover, Master's paintings have included the cause and effect of the heavens and the years. This is the true eternal painting. Time is ink, cause and effect is pen. He and the Silent One are walking each other's path. The lonely ones will understand the Master's path, and the Master will also walk the path of the lonely ones. Xialing murmured. If Master fails, will he become another Silent One? Subakian murmured. Xialing was very firm and said, no way. Master will not become a lonely person, he will not forget us. Subakian also nodded firmly. Sometimes forgetting is a good thing. At this moment, the voice of the Silent One suddenly sounded again. Xialing and Subaqian were both shocked when they saw the lonely man, who had reappeared under the withered old tree at some unknown time. Haven't you already gone to the painting? Xialing unexpectedly spoke. This painting was made by the Master's own hands. It surpasses everything. Even the Silent One shouldn't be able to come out so easily. Moreover, when the Silent One enters the painting, he should follow his words and follow the path of the Master. But at this moment, in the painting, only Li Fan is left. You tricked my master into the trap. There was a hint of anger in Subakian's eyes. Jizhe stood up with his hands behind his back, smiled and said. I didn't lie to him. He and I exchanged each other's paths to walk. I felt the ordinariness he said, and he endured my deathly silence. I did follow his path, but, not in this life, but a long time ago. There was an imperceptible wave in his calm eyes, and he said. I have also walked with my best friends and disciples, I have joined hands with beauties, and I have also faced dams. What he wants me to feel is nothing more than a ray of warmth and a ray of true love in this world, those things that he thinks can achieve the mortal path and break my lonely path. I've had these things before. Jizhe said softly, it was just cut off later. So, the barriers he set up for me cannot trap me. But he has not experienced true silence yet, so he is still painting. This is the path he chose. The return of all things to the mortal world is a false path. I will correct this path for him. Silence is the destination of all souls. But Xialing stared at Jizhe and said. No. You're afraid of him. You are afraid of my master and this road, otherwise, why don't you just let my master pass away? Jizhe looked at Xialing and smiled. It's simple, because I can't kill him either. He said softly. In the past and now, I was everywhere, omniscient, 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 omnipotent. I watch the ups and downs of every life, and listen to the joys and sorrows of this world. I can destroy the immortal way, the holy way, the divine way, chaos and even taboos with a snap of my finger. But I can't find his shadow or his roots in the long river of cause and effect in the past and present. For so many years, I haven't even been able to peek into his heart. He's an anomaly. He lowered his head, looked into the scroll, and said. The only way to deal with the unkillable anomaly is to let him become me. After all, there is nothing to fear from those who share the same ideals. He was so calm and said. The forbidden civilization should have died long ago, and so should you. The Dark Dome, the Forbidden World, the Chaos World, the so-called Pure Land Yangjian, and the underworld, and you all can survive until now only because of him. After all, only you can make him become me. Jizha looked at Ziling and others, and an imperceptible sadness suddenly appeared in his eyes. However, this sadness passed away in a flash, and his figure became very faint and disappeared from the scene. But in the years, someone seems to be whispering. The eternal world of life and death is so vast that I cannot think about it and cannot forget it. I am alone in a tomb thousands of miles away, and there is no place to express my desolation. At the same time, somewhere in the dread beast mountain forest, under an old tree, the black and white emperor and the man in white robe were still playing chess. I lost. Black and White let out a long sigh and put down the chess piece in his hand. 31 moves? There was a trace of appreciation in the eyes of the man in white robe, and he said, "What he taught you has no beginning and no end. It is indeed very powerful." The man in white robe also dropped the chess piece and said, "For 30,000 years, reincarnation will never end. You can also obtain the supreme way." After saying that, the man in white robe turned around and left. He seemed to be walking on the steps of time, and every step could not be traced back. "Senior, are you looking for Senior Li?" Black and White raised his eyes and asked. "When I played chess with you, I already met him." The voice fell, and the silhouette of the lonely man was no longer seen. "That's this moment." Hearing the words, Black and White thought thoughtfully and said, "Everywhere, all the time, is this the greatest confidence of the Dark Dome?" Boom! The aura of the Black and White Emperor suddenly fell into a strange change. On that chessboard, each white stone and black stone seems to have evolved into an endless avenue, from birth to death, from the beginning to the end, from the reincarnation to the end of the reincarnation. Black and White have become supreme. No beginning or end. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1204. Grey Mist Island. The desolate Sky Alliance army is approaching. Huo Ling Mu Jianing, Mu Wanking, Wu Xiaokan, Yang Chu Divine Emperor, Yun Chen, Chang Sun Chang Qing, etc. all came to kill them. The Grey Emperor shall be punished. Kill. Huo Ling gave the order. Suddenly, tens of millions of troops marched towards Grey Mist Continent. At this moment, in the vast Grey Fog Continent, endless grey fog also surged out. Some were like wild pythons, covering the sky and the sun, and some were like mammoths, breaking down the mountains. In the grey mist, the strange spirit roared indifferently and fought frantically with the tens of millions of troops from the desolate Sky Alliance. Among the tens of millions of troops in the Wild Sky Alliance, except for some of the creatures who have recently joined the Forbidden Nine Continents, a large part of the main force are the original forces in the secret world of reincarnation. In the secret world of reincarnation, Lu Rang and others planted white mist grass seeds on the Forbidden Ancient Road, and the Forbidden Ancient Road became the source of white mist. The cultivators in the secret world of reincarnation do not lack the source of the white mist, so now they are facing the grey mist, and they are still capable of fighting. The immortal seeds are glowing, the holy fire is burning, and the army of the Wild Sky Alliance is doing its best to kill the strange spirits. In the vast grey mist continent, there are more terrifying chariots sprinting out at this moment. The grey mist princes are holding the grey emperor's soldiers, and their power is astonishing. Hui Xiaolang is here, who dares to fight? A grey fog creature drove a grey chariot, holding a spear. The chariot was pulled by a huge grey fog rhinoceros, charging into the battle formation, invincible. "Little grey bastard, I'll kill you." The eldest grandson Buletin Mi, who was once one of the 9 tribes and 3 rebels in the Chaos Ancestral Realm, now stepped forward with a spear and fought fiercely with Grey 11 Lang. His shooting skills are sharp, fast, and extremely ruthless. What kind of shooting skills are you doing? Grey 11 said in shock. The opponent's shooting skills were simply outrageous. Treat him like a human being. The dog-killing gun method. The eldest grandson roared angrily. Do you think I'm a dog? Hui Xiaolang was angry, and his spear swept across like a cloud, but Chang Sun Bulet and me just suddenly threw the spear suddenly. No. Where are my balls? Hui Xiaolang's legs tightened, and he discovered that his egg had actually been killed by Chang Sun Bumi. I'll fight you. Old thing. Hui Xiaolang went crazy. This was a shame and a huge insult. Haijuro once again, the Wild Sky Alliance will be punished. On the other side, another Grey Mist Prince, Hui Zhuolang, appeared. He turned out to be a wolf with the head of a human body. He was as tall as a mountain. With every step he took, tens of thousands of cultivators were blown away by him. Cultivation is rampant. Under the Wild Sky Alliance, a grey figure rushed out. Hai Kulang stretched out his huge claws and wanted to pinch the figure, but what he grabbed was just an after-image. Then, he suddenly felt a sharp pain between his legs. Let you feel the eggless divine claws. Ji Wuden smiled ferociously, showing off the power of a heavenly king, and rushed towards him. At this moment, Haikuro's whole body was numb with pain, and he backed away repeatedly. Two despicable people should be punished. And in the grey fog behind, a grey fog prince stood on the chariot. Sensing that his two brothers were in a disadvantage, he immediately drew his bow. The grey fog bow seemed to be about to destroy the world. The arrows shot out, covering the sky blocks out the sun, and even space is destroyed. Overlord Shuro Wu Jianghe is here, grey bastard, don't be so presumptuous. But at this time, there was a huge black cauldron, covering the sky and the sun, and directly hit the Grey Mist Prince with a terrifying arrow. The arrow was shot on the black cauldron, but it didn't penetrate. What kind of magical power is this? The Grey Mist Prince holding the bow spoke in shock. The palm in his hand was the Grey Emperor's imperial soldier. And that big scapegoat was already pressing down on him. You dare! The Prince of Grey Mist roared angrily, put away his bow and arrows, and transformed his hands into giant shadows holding up the sky to stop this terrifying black pot. He tried his best to hold on to the blame, gritted his teeth and said, "You are nothing more than that." But before he finished speaking, he felt as if the space between his legs had been blasted with a sledgehammer. I saw Wu Jianghe, but at some point, he gave up the blame and directly attacked it. I'm sorry. The prince immediately covered his legs in pain, and then was hit by a big black pot falling from the sky. His brain was dizzy. He said to himself, "You three are really dogs, aren't you? You specialize in messing with us." Even the other Grey Mist Princes were frightened when they saw Wu Jianghe, Chang Sun Bumi, and Ji Wuden and did not dare to fight against them. These three people are so ruthless, using all kinds of underhanded tactics to attack that place as if they were taking revenge on society. Who wouldn't be mad at this? However, other strong men also took action one after another. The Yangtze God Emperor was a veteran who once guarded the Yang realm. In his previous life, he followed the 10-2 evil spirits to fight against the Sea of Grey Mist. Later, he was favored by the end of 10,000 paths and practiced many powerful methods. At this moment, he danced with his silver hair and used various spells to defy the heavens. He was like an old god of war, invincible. With a wave of his hand, he knocked back 2 Grey Mist Princes and killed countless strange creatures. Yun Chen, the father of Wan Dao Ending, was once a prodigy in the divine world. His Dao Yuan was damaged, but was later repaired by Li Fan. He has already soared into the sky, with 3,000 avenues as one, and he killed a Grey Mist Prince. The eldest grandson, Chang Qing, was once the ultimate master in the temple of sacrifice to the world. He had worked hard to lurk for many years, plowing holes in the courtyard and clearing out all the traitors in the temple of sacrifice to the world. He was a very courageous person. At this moment, he had to attack the enemy first. Blooming with super combat power. The battle was fierce, but the defeat of Grey Mist Continent was obvious. The Grey Mist Imperial Court tried all its methods, but they could not stop the Wild Sky Alliance from charging. Hold on, the Great Emperor is about to prove the Emperor of Heaven, and he will be invincible by then. Deep in the Grey Mist Imperial Court, someone shouted. Everyone looked up and saw that above the Grey Fog Emperor's court, on a staircase made of condensed grey fog, the Grey Emperor turned his back to the world. For a time, countless black fog sources fell around him. He began to run the Dark Deo Sutra, absorbed the origin of the Black Mist, and was about to achieve the throne of Heavenly Emperor. The Emperor is invincible. Guardian Emperor. The creatures in the billowing grey fog seemed to be crazy, trying to stop the Wild Sky Alliance at all costs. Follow me, kill. Mu Jianing held a wooden hairpin in each hand. At this moment, he was like an unparalleled magic weapon, bringing up a white waterfall. It was the explosion of the source of the white mist. The blessing and the wooden hairpin directly cut through the billowing grey fog, and the grey mist creatures were annihilated, and even the grey mist princes destroyed several of them. Then, the heroes of the Wild Sky Alliance galloped along the avenue, approaching the Grey Emperor. However, right now, the real killing can begin. In the vast grey fog continent, a cold voice suddenly sounded. At this moment, thousands of black battle flags suddenly emerged from the grey fog ocean. Between the black battle flags, there is a dark emperor with terrifying energy. Behind him, the vision of killing is spreading. Surprisingly, he is the disciple of Silent One, Silent Killer. At this moment, the desolate Sky Alliance army has entered the killing formation. Good night. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1205. The desolate Sky Alliance army has entered Grey Mist Continent. The terrifying black battle flag appeared overwhelmingly, blocking out the sky and the sun, with such murderous intent that even the many Grey Mist creatures in Grey Mist Continent couldn't help but retreat at this moment. Haha, today you will become my killer. Silent Kill appeared. He stood on the grey fog ocean and stared indifferently at the many powerful men of the Wild Sky Alliance who were trapped in the formation. In the densely packed endless black flags, it seemed like there was a dead black world, and the shadows of big black stars were rising and falling. It was obviously a killing formation, but everyone had a feeling that they were facing the crushing force of countless worlds. Break. Mu Jianing held the hairpin in her palm, injected divine power, and crossed the sky. Suddenly, among the countless formation flags, countless black worlds were annihilated, and large dark stars exploded with shocking power. However, the world in the black flag at this moment was too many and too vast, just like the overlapping layers of the universe. The hairpin in Mu Jianing's hand cut through a corner of the universe, but did not break the entire formation. You can actually cut open a corner of my formation. Is the thing in your hand stronger than the Supreme? Seeing this, Mo Sha was a little surprised and said, but, it doesn't matter, no matter how many treasures you have, you can't be supreme. Before I can kill you, you have to die. He was extremely confident, because his killing formation was of great origin and was made from all the dead and withered stars in the Dark Vault since ancient times. Throughout the ages, the Dark Dome has endured through the immortal way, the holy way, the divine way, and the way of chaos. In the vast river of time and space, how many stars have fallen and how many civilizations have perished. Those dead stars and worlds were collected by the Supreme Masters in the dark sky and formed into a large formation. This large formation was not originally a killing formation, but was used to refine the heart of the Silent One. Billions of withered stars and unwilling remnant souls wailed together, driving even the Emperor of Heaven crazy. However, the Supreme in the Dark Vault worked together to create such a grand formation, just to allow the Silent One to go one step further. In the end, the Silent One spent millions of years to silence all the stars and worlds in the entire formation. At the same time, in this great formation, he understood his nature and had a glimpse of his own 9 desires, and then he went to the Forbidden World. And this supreme formation, which was originally used by the Silent One to refine his heart, was given to silent killing and became the killing formation. This is a veritable supreme killing formation, and it is by no means ordinary. It was made by many supremes working together and using countless Death Stars throughout the ages. Therefore, even though Mu Jianing is holding a hairpin made by Li Fan himself, they are far from supreme strength. This killing array cannot be broken. Grant you death, let me feel the killing. Mo Sha sneered and spoke. He waved and endless flags buzzed. Each flag seemed to reflect a dead world. The dead power of the heavens and the resentment of the worlds are all added to the army of the Desolate Sky Alliance at this moment. No. What kind of power is this? It's like facing a whole world, unable to resist. On the side of the Wild Sky Alliance, the army was suddenly in chaos, and a terrifying killing calamity was about to fall. Even Huo Linger and Mu Jianing's expressions changed drastically. The treasures in their hands are enough to protect the core of the Wild Sky Alliance, but the tens of millions of troops may really be wiped out. The price is too heavy. But, right now. Suddenly, in the vast formation, a tree rose up against the sky, supporting the sky of the universe, hundreds of millions of feet high, majestic and vast, blocking everything. Every leaf of this giant tree seems to carry a world, imprinted with countless imprints, endless changes, and the shadows of countless worlds are unfolding. What is this world tree? Seeing this ancient tree, Mo Sha's face changed drastically, his eyes turned pale with horror, and he said, "Didn't all the world trees that appeared throughout the ages disappear with the destruction of civilizations such as the Immortal Way and the Holy Way?" He comes from the Vault of Darkness, so he knows very well that the world tree can only be born when an endless world of life is nurtured over a period of time and reaches great prosperity. And the world tree can carry all the heavens and worlds. This tree is immortal, and the heavens are immortal. Is this the world tree of the Forbidden World? It shouldn't be, the Forbidden World is just this world. It is far from reaching the great prosperity of civilizations such as the Immortal Way and the Holy Way. How can it nourish a world tree? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. But, at this moment, a square world actually emerged among those leaves. That was the immortal era and the holy path, time and space that belonged to the underworld, reappearing through the world tree. That is the Tao that belongs to the God realm, derived independently. In those shadows of the world, there are actually countless divine beasts. That is the source of energy from the ancestral realm of chaos, billowing endlessly, and all kinds of chaotic creatures are roaring. In fact, even the Tao of today's taboo world has been absorbed into it and is also evolving. No, this world tree runs through the 5 time and space of Immortal Way, Holy Way, Shinto Way, Chaos, and Taboo, and contains the light of the world of the 5 major life civilizations. At this moment, Silent Killer was dumbfounded. Who planted this tree? If this tree continues to grow, even if civilization is extinguished and the fire is extinguished, one day, the 5 major dimensions of time and space may be reborn. At that time, the civilization that may be born will be even more brilliant. Immortal, Saint, God, Chaos, Taboo, 5 avenues burst out at the same time in the silent universe. What would it be like? Who could be so talented, to be able to imprint the worlds of the 5 major time and space civilizations into one tree? Mo Sha murmured, and he subconsciously thought of that one. Only that person can do this, right? Thank you for the killing array. At this time, a cold and clear voice suddenly sounded. I saw a peerless beauty dressed in white at the top of the world tree. With a wave of his hand, every leaf of the world tree suddenly erupted together. Among the endless banners of silent killing, those dead stars and worlds were suddenly suppressed at this moment. The woman in white shirt standing above the world tree waved her jade hand, and those big flags rose into the sky, shrunk and condensed in an instant, and turned into a small black flag, which fell into her hand. The killing formation was broken. Even the entire killing array was obtained by her. Who are you? The silent killing turned pale in horror. Mu Jianing, Huolinger and others were overjoyed and said, Sister Zhang Shui. This person is surprisingly Zhang Shui. She has obtained the world tree and planted immortal seeds. Her current strength has reached the realm of the heavenly king, second only to the great emperor. Moreover, the world tree is so powerful that it has grown in Li Fan's courtyard for several years, absorbing the 5 levels of civilization avenues. It is unfathomable and directly makes her combat power soar to an unimaginable level. Sister Zhang Shui, have you seen Senior Li? Huolinger and others asked with concern. They originally went to the small mountain village with Black and White, but they met the mysterious white-robed man halfway. Black and White stayed, and they turned back. Now that Zhang Shui has obtained the world tree, did she go back to the small mountain village? Zhang Shui shook her head and said, No. Some of Senior Li's disciples escaped from the village. Escaped. Hearing these 4 words, Huolinger, Mu Jianing, and others all looked shocked. Escape. This was the first time they heard that a small mountain village faced an enemy, and actually escaped. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1206. And at this moment, in a secret place. Dehei, didn't you lead us to escape? Why are you here? Long Xuanhuan looked at the battlefield ahead and spoke doubtfully. But the big black dog raised his dog eyes and stared ahead at the gray emperor who was absorbing the black origin and said, When Xiaohui becomes the emperor of darkness, the dark world at the end of the world will come. When the time comes, I will take you to fight and grab the light. But Lin Zhujian said, But if we show up here, aren't we taking the initiative to expose ourselves? After all, according to Sister Tao, they have to live. Living can keep Li Fan's state of mind intact, lest he become another lonely person. But the big black dog waved his paw and said with great strength, So what if you are exposed? Death can be lighter than a feather, or heavier than Mount Tai. Die to continue the spark of civilization, and you deserve to die. Follow me, fight until the end of time, fight until the sun and the moon dim, and use this life to pave a way for the common people. Are you afraid? It is simply exciting and passionate, like a general who calmly faces thousands of troops, like a hero who stands firm and has no fear. Everyone. Bitch, you're pretending again. Wu Dade spoke disdainfully and said, In the small courtyard, I was so scared by Brother Long that I almost peed. Now I'm pretending to be a big-tailed wolf. The big black dog had a generous look on his face. When he heard Wu Dade's words, he suddenly couldn't hold himself tight and said with bared teeth, Damn fat man, is it because I can't bite anymore, or are you drifting away? Wu Dade suddenly felt his butt tighten and subconsciously stepped back. Although he is now the king of heaven, facing Dehei, his body is like a diamond, but he still can't bear it. Dehei, what exactly do you think? Duguyuking asked solemnly. The big black dog then looked away from Wu Dade and said, The guy the master faces is everywhere and at all times. If we want to escape, the only way is to escape into the past. Although I can't escape his eyes, at least I can live one more day. But the dark world at the end of 10,000 paths occupies the chaotic time and space closest to the forbidden time and space, making it impossible for us to travel to other bygone years. Therefore, we must capture it. The big black dog's eyes are full of determination. I see, Dehe is indeed an escape expert. Lu Rang couldn't help but sigh. Dead dog. At this time, Wu Dade suddenly asked the big black dog nervously and anxiously, saying, Master, is he weaker than the lonely one now? In fact, from the moment they started to escape, everyone had a vague idea. Although that so-called great enemy cannot kill Master, his strength is probably even stronger than Master. In fact, Li Fan needs them to survive in order to stabilize his Taoist heart. No matter how you look at it, Master seems to be at a disadvantage. But the big black dog narrowed his eyes and said, I can only say that everyone who understands this matter understands it, and even if you don't understand it, you don't understand it. It's better not to say it and study it carefully. Don't ask me what's going on. There's too much involved here. It's not good for you or me to say it, so just pretend you don't know. For the rest, I can only say that the water here is very deep and involves many things, so it's best for everyone not to understand if you don't understand, and don't understand if you understand too much. Good. It was said out loud one after another, making Wu Dade stunned for a while, not knowing how serious it was. This is all humming nonsense, is this bitch pretending again? Lu Rang muttered. Hearing this, Wu Dade immediately reacted and became angry, saying, Damn dog, why the hell did you fool me again? He almost believed it. Even Long Xuanhuan and others couldn't help it, looking at the big black dog with eyes full of evil. Seeing everyone gearing up, the big black dog couldn't help but get a little angry and said, What do you want to do? I tell you that I am the second best in the world. Only by following me can I protect you, show some respect to me. It retreated continuously. Everyone was speechless when they heard this. This damn dog is so good at pretending, and he is still pretending even now. Kill it. Eat dog meat hot pot. Everyone couldn't bear it anymore. The main thing is that they are indeed concerned about Li Fan's battle situation now, but only this dead dog knows best. As a result, it is still hidden. Seeing this, the big black dog said anxiously, Okay, I will tell you the truth. Everyone stopped and stared at it. The big black dog seemed to hesitate for a long time before suddenly raising its paw and pointing towards Wu Dade. Wu Dade suddenly became stunned, his expression was empty and he said mechanically, Omniscient, omnipotent, omniscient, omniscient, omnipotent, number one in the world, supreme in the universe, this is the Silent One. He was chanting, while Lin Zhuchen was waiting, but they were all awe-inspiring. They already have an understanding of the Supreme, so, they understand very well what these descriptions mean. The best in the world. The universe is supreme. These words are enough to overwhelm all souls in the world and make them breathless. And Wu Dade, after saying this, suddenly reacted and said, Hey, what happened to me just now? Damn dog, you control me. He stared at the big black dog. The big black dog said, Nothing, I want you to test it out. If you say those two words, will there be any big omen? After all, if a non-dark creature mentions his name, if it is not strong enough, it will be destroyed directly and turn into darkness. Living things. Well, you haven't changed, which means he doesn't plan to take action. He is just watching. The big black dog muttered. But when Wu Dade heard this, his blood pressure immediately rose. You cheater, you cheated me, I'll kill you. Wu Dade was so angry that he really wanted to eat dog meat hot pot if he couldn't beat him. By the way, what did I just say? But after reacting, he asked Long Xuanhuan and others again. But Long Xuanhuan and others' faces were a little heavy. The Silent One is number one in the world and supreme in the universe. Long Xuanhuan repeated. When Wu Dade heard this, he was startled for a moment and murmured. In this world, it's true that there is someone stronger than Master. He also became extremely worried. No matter what, let's do what we can. But Tuguyuking spoke, with no fear on his face, and said, even if he passes away, what's the point of fear? The other disciples also nodded. But fight the darkness, regardless of the outcome. Wait for that dark world to come. The heaviness in their hearts did not make them afraid, but made them more determined. The big black dog, on the other hand, muttered in his heart. The number one in the world is still in this world after all. The highest in the universe is only in the universe. I did not say that it is above the sky or outside the universe. If you want to win, you have to lie, big or bad. After all, what the master really wants to deal with is not that poor man. Whoa, I can't let my random thoughts stop. The big black dog suddenly became excited, then hurriedly raised its legs and began to use its magical powers. Oh no, you damn bitch, you don't have martial ethics. You urinate and defecate everywhere. Do you have any merit at all? Wu Date and others were extremely disgusted. But the big black dog said disdainfully. Human pet, what do you know? This emperor is hiding the secret. This emperor's great magical power can cut off the cause and effect of heaven and earth, and shield the supreme sight and hearing. After peeing, it felt much more relieved. After all, even an omniscient being would not be willing to inspect its own supernatural power. Immediately afterwards, there was a trace of sadness in the dog's eyes, and he said, Master really can't defeat the Silent One, let's wait for the dark world to come and escape quickly. Good night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1207. Just when a war broke out in Grey Mist continent outside. A huge stone door stands in a secret space somewhere. The stone door seems to have isolated the other world, and even the real flow of time cannot penetrate into the door. In the stone gate, there is a dark corridor. Continuing to move forward, a little glimmer of light finally appeared in front of him. It was a staircase made of countless books, with a total of 100 steps. Hundreds of stairs lead to the sky, and endless stars are shining on that sky. Every star is a crystallization of wisdom that can illuminate a long period of human history. Here is a world belonging to Wandeo. Throughout the ages, those who dared not attack the embankment and chose to survive have all hid in this door. Mazai looked at the stairs in front of him, with a gleam of passion in his eyes. Every supreme has witnessed the glory of a period of time. This is the crystallization of the wisdom of countless civilizations. Give me 10,000 years to read it all, even if it is supreme, I may be able to touch it. As he walked to the steps, he suddenly noticed something. Looking back, he saw a little girl coming from the other direction, carrying a box of books. Mog is a little confused. There are actually other people in this gate of 10,000 daos. His face turned cold and he said, Stop. When Xuanhuan saw Mog, she blinked her big eyes and said, Who are you? Mog said indifferently. I am the great emperor of silent knowledge. Who are you? Why are you here? Xuanhuan said, Me? My name is Xuanhuan, and I'm here to study. Are you here to study too? To be able to come here, Senior Emperor, you must be very knowledgeable, right? Her big eyes were full of innocence and curiosity. White mist creatures. Mazai noticed something strange about Xuanhuan. He was slightly startled and had murderous intentions. However, this place was watched by many supreme beings, and the little girl being let in by them meant that they had their permission. It would be bad if he killed Xuanhuan. You can leave now. The knowledge here is not for a young girl like you to covet. Mog said indifferently. Xuanhuan smiled and said, Senior Mog, but my eldest brother said that everyone has the right to seek knowledge, and the palace of knowledge should be open to everyone in the world. Mo Zhileng said, "You are not ashamed to speak. That's all. I am here just to seek knowledge. I will spare your life and don't bother me. Otherwise, I will kill you without mercy." After saying that, he immediately walked to the steps. On the first step, countless light spots converged into a book. This is the manifestation of the first step. Only by clearly understanding the content in the book can we step onto the first step and observe the second step. Moj looked carefully, he closed his eyes, comprehending, deducing, and digesting. Finally, his eyes opened, and at this moment, countless lotus flowers were reflected in his eyes. That is the evolution of the avenue. In an instant, the book disappeared and he climbed to the first step. It's indeed good. The first book touches on the core of the avenue. Moj murmured, looking forward to the book ahead even more. At the same time, he turned back and took a look, only to see the little girl named Xuanhuan standing in front of the first step, curiously looking at the ladder of knowledge and the bright starry sky of wisdom, showing no sign of enlightenment at all. It's such a waste to enter this place when you are still young. He shook his head and continued to the second step. At this moment, before the first step, Xuanhuan looked curiously at the 100 steps ahead and the dome of wisdom connected above the 100 steps. It seems, it's all quite simple. She muttered, and then said, "Let's continue reading the book that Big Brother gave me first." She immediately sat obediently on the first step, but did not pay attention to the book of the great Dao that appeared on the step. Instead, she opened the book box and took out the books she had brought from the small courtyard. "There are still many books that I haven't finished yet." She looked at it with relish. And at this moment, Moj has stepped onto the second step. The books on the second step are also reflected. This time, it took him longer, a full 2 hours. On the third step, he sat there all day. The fourth step took him a full month. It's getting more and more difficult. It's just the fourth step. Some of the knowledge actually touches the realm of the Emperor of Heaven. He murmured, "Is it possible that just these 100 steps can touch the true meaning of the Supreme Way?" He was getting more and more excited and looking forward to it. Before continuing on his journey, he turned back and glanced below. I saw that Xining was still in front of the first step. She was sitting on the first step, using the steps as a chair and the bookcase as a table, still reading the book she brought. The book of Great Dao on the first step appeared beside her and never disappeared. Cramming. Mazai sneered. In her opinion, Xuanhuan was unable to decipher the content of the first stairs book, so was she just trying to find the answer from other reference books? He couldn't help but shake his head. The gate of 10,000 ways was outrageous. How could a little girl like this be allowed in? It doesn't seem worth worrying about. He no longer paid attention to Xuanhuan, and then continued to climb the fifth step. It took him half a year to realize the fifth step. As he continued to gain enlightenment, his aura was also changing, becoming more harmonious and complete from the realm of the great emperor. On the sixth step, he sat there for 3 years. He waited for 11 years before finally breaking through the seventh step. In the 3012th year, he finally stepped onto the 11th step. Next, it took him 5,000 years to go from the 11th step to the 19th step. Over the past 5,000 years, he has walked slower and slower, and the books he encountered have become increasingly difficult to comprehend and understand. His hair has gradually become thinner due to excessive use of his brain. After stepping onto the 19th step, he sat there for 2,000 years. Halfway through, he woke up numerous times, vomiting blood and turning pale. He tried again and again. No. This 19th step has already touched the Tao above the Emperor of Heaven. It's too difficult, these secrets of the Tao cannot be solved at all. He looked ugly. Below the realm of the Emperor of Heaven, even if it is more difficult, he can slowly understand it. Even the book on the 18th step that really touches the path of the Emperor of Heaven took him 2000 years to understand. This is already a great opportunity. If he wants to understand the Heavenly Emperor's way by himself, he estimates that it will take hundreds of thousands of years. But now, someone has written out the Great Road in its entirety for you to read, just like a textbook, you just need to understand it. But above the realm of the Emperor of Heaven, he felt, he really couldn't understand it. Even though it had been written down, he felt, like a heavenly book. He could clearly understand each of the Deo Deo characters, but when they were put together, he couldn't read them at all. 2000 years later, he still has no clue. I'm not convinced. Could it be that my talent can only touch the path of the Emperor of Heaven? He trembled, gritted his teeth, and couldn't help but think of the legendary end of 10,000 paths. According to rumors, that woman only spent 7,900 years to learn all the knowledge in the gate of 10,000 Deos, and she also mastered it and smelted 10,000 Deos. Only now did he understand how perverted that woman was. Is her brain really a human brain? He was simply doubtful. It should be noted that he has used the 19 steps alone for more than 7,100 years. Moreover, he doesn't even have the slightest clue about the Book of Great Deo on the 19th step. I can definitely do it. I don't believe in fate. I don't believe that my qualifications are so poor. I can't even climb the 19 steps. He gritted his teeth and tried his best. In the following years, his physical changes were particularly obvious. The skin has become wrinkled, even a little old, the flesh and blood are shrinking, all the hair has fallen out, and the eyebrows have turned gray. His life was almost exhausted. The road to knowledge is never easy. Once you are trapped in a knowledge dilemma and cannot get out, it is also a huge torture for people and can exhaust your efforts. In just 100 years, his loss of life was astonishingly greater than the previous 7,000 years. Finally, on the 120th year, he woke up vomiting blood again. At this moment, he was old, and his body was trembling. Is this an unsolvable problem? It vaguely touches on the Supreme, it's so difficult. There was almost despair in his old eyes. He really doesn't. Even if you try your best and burn your life, it won't work. Hey, Senior Emperor, why have you become so old? At this time, he suddenly heard a childish and curious voice. He subconsciously turned his head, only to see that Xuanhuan had already ascended the 19th step without knowing it. She was carrying her big book box and looking at Mog with curiosity on her face. Seeing Xuanhuan, Mog couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Who is this little girl? For more than 7,000 years, he has been immersed in the ocean of knowledge, so he has long forgotten his peace of mind, and for a while, he didn't even think about it. No. Weren't you in front of the first step? How did you get up? Finally he remembered and spoke unexpectedly. Moreover, Xuanhuan's appearance has not changed at all, she is still full of energy and energy. Doesn't she use her brain? Xuanhuan said, I came up after reading the book my elder brother gave me. Hearing this, Mog was slightly surprised. Could it be that those reference books of hers are actually effective? Senior Emperor, your appearance is very similar to the delusion of mind disease mentioned in the book. You encounter obstacles that are difficult to overcome, but you are reluctant to give up and have to force yourself through it, resulting in damage to your soul power and exhaustion of your efforts, delusion of mind, but the fire of life and karma. Xuanhuan opened her mouth and said, Senior Emperor, you'd better give up as soon as possible. Hearing this, Mo knew that his face was extremely ugly, and he was filled with shame and anger, and said, Ignorant child, what do you know? This book is difficult and touches on the supreme truth, but I have an idea. I will definitely be able to understand it in another 5,000 years at most. There was a tremor in his words. Because, he actually has no confidence, 5,000 years, even if he is given another 50,000 years, he may not be able to do it. Hearing this, Xuanhuan was silent for a moment and said, "Oh. Then, please make way." With that said, she walked to the 19th step. Then, he waved his hand directly. At this moment, in her hands, there were actually countless rules evolving, transforming into flowers of the avenue. Eventually, the flowers of the avenue withered and turned into nothingness. The 20th step has been opened for Xuanhuan. What? Seeing this scene, Moji's eyes were straight. He looked shocked and looked at Xuanhuan in disbelief. How can this be? It took me 7,000 years to understand the Book of Great Dao, but this little girl understood it in just one moment? No, even the other party doesn't seem to understand. Just took a casual look. Then I understood everything. What kind of monster is this? You, how did you do it? His words were trembling a little, and he said, how could you comprehend such a difficult road in an instant? Xining had already stepped onto the 20th step. Hearing this, she couldn't help but paused and said doubtfully. This, seems not difficult, right? It seems, not difficult. At this moment, Moj felt that his heart had been pierced. After 7,000 years of enlightenment, a little girl said, it's not difficult. This is relatively simple. Look, first like this, then like this, then like this. In fact, the content of this book is quite simple and thin. You can just read the table of contents, there is no need to read the content. Xuanhuan said casually. And Moj, at this moment, he almost lost his self-esteem. Just look at the table of contents, no need to look at the content? At this moment, he felt for the first time that his self-esteem was being stepped on the ground, one kick after another. All broken. Wrong. However, he immediately realized what Xuanhuan said. First like this, then like this, and like this. With a few simple words, his thinking that had been trapped for thousands of years suddenly seemed to see the light of day. He was thinking along Xuanhuan's words. At this moment, his thinking was like stepping on the road of truth, getting wider and wider. Finally, he suddenly understood, tremblingly, stretched out his hands, and evolved the content of the great road explained in this book. At this moment, he understood the Tao and solved the problem that had existed for thousands of years. The 20th step opened for him. It turns out that's how it is, it turns out that's how it is. He raised his eyes and looked at Xuanhuan. At this moment, a hint of complexity flashed through his old eyes. What she said is true. But how did she manage such difficult content and summarize it in just a few sentences? Moreover, it is an accurate summary. This is simply terrifying. Who the hell are you? It was the first time he asked such a serious question. Xuanhuan smiled and said, Me? I'm the eldest brother's sister. There was a special pride and a special light in her eyes. She was once one of the 12 ancestors of the people, one of the 10 evil spirits, and a generation of evil kings in Xiantian realm. However, she did not take these identities to heart. Big brother's sister is the only answer in her heart, where she belongs and her harbor. Old senior, if you want to learn, I can teach you. Big brother once said that the palace of knowledge should be open to everyone, no matter rich or poor, no matter men, women, old or young, no matter what the education is, as long as there is a thirst for knowledge, should be favored by wisdom. Xuanhuan spoke seriously. She could feel the black mist aura on the emperor's body, but she firmly believed in what Li Fan said, that in the face of knowledge, everyone is equal. At worst, I'll beat him to death after I teach him all the knowledge. Well, that's it, it doesn't go against the teachings of my elder brother, nor does it go against my own position. But after hearing this, Moj said with a straight face, I am knowledgeable, why do you, a child, need to teach me? I just thought about going on a business trip. This is human nature. I will naturally be able to understand the following book of the Great Dao smoothly. After saying that, he opened the book of Great Dao on the 20th step. Then, he was suddenly confused. Because, on this second step, much more difficult than the one on the 19th step, I'm afraid it won't work even if I give him another 50,000 years. But at this moment, Xuanhuan started directly again, the light of the avenue bloomed, mysteries emerged, and he actually successfully passed the level again. He was shocked again. This little girl, is too perverted? You, didn't read the content? He asked subconsciously. Xuanhuan said. That's right, the content is just talk, there's nothing practical about it, just look at the catalog and you'll know. It's all just words. I know the feeling silently, and my mentality collapses again and again. He hesitated for a long time, and finally couldn't bear it any longer. He mumbled and said, How do you interpret this book? Can you give me some more advice? Just one chapter today. Good night. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1208. Ken, give me some more advice. In the world of Gate of 10,000 Ways, on the second step, Moj gritted his teeth and spoke. He was simply ashamed. He is known as a learned man, and in the vast sky of darkness, he can be said to be second only to the Silent One. However, now I have actually fallen to the point where, I have to ask a little girl for advice. For the sake of knowledge, I can only put down my self-esteem. This is easy. Xuanhuan explained immediately. Finally, Moj understood and evolved the Book of Great Dao on the 20th step. On the 21st step, Moj was confused again. This time he read the catalog first, but he couldn't even understand the catalog. When he opened the first page, it was like a book from heaven. He could only look at Xuanhuan eagerly. Zinning explained while directly demonstrating the avenues explained in this book. Creation Mingming is the mother of all things, and above Mingming. Mazai hurriedly remembered it with his heart, and then thought about it several times in his heart, and finally realized it. I see, it's really difficult. After being enlightened by Xuanhuan, instead of finding it easy, he became deeply aware of the difficulty involved. As expected, it involves the Supreme, and every explanation and elaboration of the avenue is unimaginable. If he were to rely on himself, he might not be able to decipher the Book of Great Dao on the 21st step in his lifetime. He even had a feeling that even if his master, the Silent One, came, I'm afraid he might not be able to understand the true meaning so easily, right? In comparison, he felt more and more that this little girl, was too perverted. What understanding and talent! The most important thing is, what kind of person can teach such a person? How knowledgeable her teacher must be. He stared at Xuanhuan with great solemnity in his heart, guessing where Xuanhuan came from. Correct. At this time, Zinning suddenly spoke and said, I'm teaching you knowledge, why don't you say thank you? Mazai was silent for a moment, and then said, Thanks. Xuanhuan smiled happily and said, You're welcome. Come along, I will lead you to kill indiscriminately, I will be responsible for the killing, and you will be responsible for the killing. Her words were both domineering and cute, and then she stepped onto the 22nd step. Next, Xuanhuan quickly climbed up the stairs of knowledge with tacit knowledge at an unimaginable speed. It turns out, that's what this book means, I understand. Excuse me again, I really didn't understand what I just said. Please, explain it to me again. What, Xian and Huan can coexist? But, Where did Xian come from, and where did Huan come from, and why do they coexist? Along the way, Mo.G has been completely convinced. The higher he goes, the more difficult the road he encounters. Xuan even feels that even the Supreme Master in the Dark Dome may not be able to know it. However, Xuanning always responded fluently. Those difficult books seemed like she didn't need to think about them at all. At the same time, his true nature as a scumbag was revealed more and more. Later, even if Xuanning said it once, he often couldn't understand it. Dexinning explained. Therefore, the further he walked, the more frightened he became. Oh, I don't know how to do this. Just memorize the answer. Copy it, don't think about it. Let you copy the steps. As they walked, Xuanning stopped explaining more, because even though she explained, Mo.G couldn't understand. Then, she directly asked Mo.G to copy the answer. After all, Mo.G is a learned man in the Vault of Darkness, a great emperor, his memory is quite reliable. Then, the Silent One relied on the answers given by Xuanning and muddled through. Because this level of knowledge seems to have limitations. As long as he shows the corresponding morality, he can be judged to have understood it. But it is impossible to tell whether he has truly understood it. Could it be that, I, a majestic emperor, actually want to rely on copying answers to reach the star of knowledge? Mo.G gritted his teeth. He felt that his life's knowledge and accumulation would not allow him to do this. However, when he saw the next book, this thought was immediately thrown out of the sky. Maid, there are answers you can copy, it's so delicious. As long as he can pass the test, it doesn't matter whether he has mastered it or not. And, most importantly, he felt, as long as he climbed to a higher ladder of knowledge, there would be some kind of power that would subconsciously nourish his soul and replenish his almost drained hard work. Sister Swiba, wait a minute, you evolved too fast, I didn't see it clearly. At this moment, he turned into a scumbag and followed behind Xuanning with a flattering look on his face. And at this moment, in the blink of an eye, they had already reached the 80th step. It only took less than a day. Secretly. This is a bit outrageous. What is the origin of this girl? A supreme voice whispers. Another end of 10,000 paths must be related to that person. I took a peek at the book she was reading before the first step, and it already touched the supreme. Moreover, even I couldn't quite figure it out. Another supreme murmured. Even for us, she actually has a box of things that are considered treasures. She has read all of that box. The contents of the 100 steps of knowledge are not worth mentioning to her at all. Whose child is this? I really doubt that she is using the Supreme Book as an enlightenment book. A group of supremely powerful men who have survived for countless years are all feeling somewhat depressing. Even if they spend their lifetimes, they may only be able to write one copy of the Supreme Treasure Book. However, people feel at ease and take a box with them when they go out. This kind of person, why do you come to our gate of 10,000 daos? He's so bullying. He's digging iron ore with a golden hoe. You spoke with supreme sorrow. This girl is definitely related to that one. At this moment, a deep voice also sounded. In fact, to be so favored by that person, her status in that person's heart may be comparable to that of 10,000 ways end. Is he trying to knock us by sending this girl here himself? As soon as these words came out, many supreme beings were shocked. Even though the darkness is powerful, if that person wants us to perish, he only has to snap his fingers. Now, we can't fall into darkness easily. Yes, continue to wait and see, wait. Many of the supreme beings in the gate of 10,000 daos are afraid. And at this moment, Xuanning has reached the 81st step. This time, she still understood the book quickly. However, the silent person who followed behind him couldn't even copy the answer. That's not right, I can't evolve the corresponding origin. Mog was dumbfounded, and the avenue evolved by Xuanhuan was based on white mist, but he only had the origin of black mist. Sister Swiba, how to do this? He asked bravely. Xuanhuan said, this. She was about to say that she could just ask the Silent One to change a step, but she didn't know what she thought of. Suddenly her big eyes blinked, she paused, and said, I need you to change the origin to the white mist origin. The Silent One was stunned. Change his origin? And at this moment, outside, Grey Mist Continent. The silent killing Supreme Killing formation has been completely suppressed by World Tree, and even the core formation flag of the Killing formation has been taken away by Xuanhuan. Kill. The Grey Emperor has almost finished absorbing the origin of darkness, stop him. We must never allow a Dark Emperor to appear in this world. The people from the Wild Sky Alliance roared and charged away. As for Mo, he was panicking at this moment. Without the Supreme Killing formation, he no longer had the confidence. Junior brother Mog, come back quickly, we can't stop you. He hurriedly summoned Mog. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1209. Change the origin. Mazai was completely stunned. Change to the origin of white mist, how is this possible? No. I was born with darkness in mind. I am a creature of darkness. How can I become a dirty and lowly white mist repeller? However, he quickly reacted and said in a deep voice. In my lifetime, I will kill all the lives in the world that deviate from this law. If I change my origin, wouldn't I be surrendering to the enemy? Hearing this, Xuanhuan said. Oh, actually, if you change your origin, it's equivalent to death, right? The Silent One said. Certainly. Xuanhuan said. To put it bluntly, you are just greedy for life and afraid of death. My eldest brother once said that if you hear the Tao in the morning, you will die in the evening. Well, you're not that kind of person. Zinning continued to step forward and said. Goodbye. With that said, she started to climb the 83rd step. On the 83rd step, Xuanhuan evolved into a great avenue, which actually involved a trace of the supreme truth. These avenues. Mazai looked at the book of Dao in front of him, his eyes filled with reluctance. Could it be that just because he is a creature of the black mist, he will be isolated from the avenue? Is there no other way? He raised his eyes and asked Zinning again. Xuanhuan paused and said. Maybe you can try to dispel the source of the black mist in the heart and try to evolve with the power of the heart. She casually said another method. Hearing this, Mazai thought for a moment and felt that this was, okay. Anyway, you don't have to turn into a white mist creature. He immediately followed Xuanhuan's method. Sure enough, although the progress was very slow and there were thousands of extra steps, in the end he realized the same secret and entered the next level. Hey, why didn't the method just now work? Seeing the Book of Great Dao on the 82nd step, he hurriedly asked again. Oh, this time, you have to introduce a trace of the source of the white mist first. The worst is, after introducing the source, it will be discharged from the body. Xuanhuan spoke casually. Hearing this, I hesitated silently. Introduce the origin of white mist into your original heart? This seems like it could be dangerous. But, for the sake of the road. Moreover, the source of the white mist can indeed be discharged in a short while. He immediately gritted his teeth and said. Can you borrow a bit of the white mist's origin? I'll return it to you later. Xuanhuan clicked her fingers, and a white mist floated in front of Mog. Mazai hesitated for a moment, and then absorbed the source of the white mist into his heart. What's next? He asked Xuanhuan. Well, do this first, then do this, be careful not to make a mistake. Xuanhuan gives guidance. Immediately follow the instructions. Sure enough, he once again evolved the corresponding avenue, and it became extremely easy. Very good. He was overjoyed. Give me back my roots. Xuanhuan spread out her little hands. Can I borrow it for a little while longer? Don't worry, I'm not interested in the origin of Baiwu. I will pay you back soon. Now he has tasted the sweetness. He first borrowed the origin of white mist and absorbed enough of the true meaning of the great avenue. When the time comes, he can return it to Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan said, then, remember to return it. Immediately, they moved on. However, after just a few steps forward, Moj felt that it was getting harder and harder to rely on the source of the white mist. In the end, it was completely impossible to evolve into a great avenue. Is it because the source of the white mist is not strong enough? He murmured, subconsciously raised his eyes, looked at Xuanhuan, and said eagerly, borrow me a little more. Don't worry, I will give it back to you if I don't want it. Finally, the two of them reached 100 steps above the ground. Up to now, Moj has borrowed a lot of origins. Only one step away from me, I can touch the starry sky of wisdom and step onto the true supreme. Moj was extremely excited. And Xuanhuan, facing the 100th step, thought for a while, and then stepped forward directly, reflecting the avenue. The spiritual platform was opened wide, and 10 soul fire lamps representing the 3 souls and 7 souls were reflected, resonating with the origin. Boom! Xuanhuan stepped onto the 100th step. In an instant, in countless vast star domes, the light of wisdom evolved all over the sky. The light of wisdom turned into a dragon and flew for 9 heavens. The clouds of wisdom condensed into a bridge, leading to the mystery. The rain of wisdom poured down, bringing blessings. Hutu. Xuanhuan closed her eyes, and suddenly there was a blazing invisible flame beside her, burning up and turning into a furnace. In an instant, the light of billions of stars in the entire universe seemed to have been swallowed by a whale, and they all converged into her furnace. The light of 10,000 ways is melted, the cloud of wisdom is burned, she is smelting 10,000 ways. Seeing this scene, Mazai was shocked. Is this the road that Wandao Ending has walked? In the world of 10,000 ways, smelting 10,000 ways, we have achieved the most special way among the supreme, no return. And now, is this little girl actually going to realize it? He was instantly excited. As long as he stepped on the 100th step, he would also have the opportunity to reach the top. Without hesitation, he directly followed Xuanhuan's method, united his heart and spirit, resonated with his origin and soul, and evolved into a great way. However, the 10 dark fires in his spiritual platform were suddenly struck by the origin contained in his heart and shook violently. No. If you do this, my soul and cognition will be changed by the origin of the white mist. Moj noticed something at the last moment. He suddenly raised his eyes, looked at Xuanhuan and said, "You hurt me." He understands. Xuanhuan has been digging holes for him along the way. Let him lower his guard against the origin of the white mist step by step, and even stimulate him to continue to borrow the origin of the white mist. In the end, he was guided to use the source of white mist to bombard his own dark fire. At this moment, the white mist surged, and his 10 dark fires suddenly went out. No. He evolved the avenue on the 100th step, and then he fainted and fell on the steps, unconscious. Xuanhuan, who was smelting Wandao, just said silently, "Give you a chance to live. If I can turn you into a white mist creature according to the method in the book, I won't beat you to death." Along the way, she just conducted an experiment. Then, she continued to smell 10,000 daos. The fire of all directions is surging. At this moment, the endless true meaning of the Dao turned into the steps in her Dao scenery. It was like a palace of knowledge, made up of countless dao. This, what kind of avenue is she doing? In the secret, the Supreme Being spoke in an astonishing way. Using many Supremes as fire, one can see the path of ignorance. Will she become the next great dancer? It's very possible. Back then, there was a chance to become an ignorant person at the end of Wandao, but she gave up Wandao and instead used the fire of Wandao to refine the state of mind of no return. Because, she once said that after knowing everything, facing the horror in the dam, it is easy to feel despair and fear. Therefore, she stood at the end of the world, but she only cultivated the state of mind of no return. In this way, although she cannot gain the power of ignorance, she dares to swim upstream. Even the dam cannot make her fear. She is indeed the person closest to the dam besides that one. She is more or less supreme. Just looking at the dam from a distance, her heart will collapse and her body will die. Even though the great master is sitting on the path of ignorance, none of them have gone further than her. This is a secret. The fire of 10,000 paths can provide an opportunity for those who come after to see the way of ignorance. What was once the end of 10,000 paths gave up the opportunity, and instead faced the darkness with a state of no return. There is no way to go back, there is no way back, we can only keep moving forward. In all eternity, the little girl in front of me is the second opportunity to appear in the fire of 10,000 ways. Peace of mind, there is a chance to lead to the path of ignorance. But when Xuanhuan stood in front of the 10,000 Dao fire, there was no movement in her big eyes like clear lakes. After knowing everything, so what? I'm not the best in the world. Facing darkness, you will fail, and you will be transformed into dark creatures. She whispered and suddenly said, I don't want to know everything, I just want to never forget my eldest brother, never become his enemy, and never become a dark creature, otherwise, eldest brother will be sad. At this moment, her thoughts were so strong that they could not be destroyed even by all the fires. Thousands of bright roads have ended sadly, and there are many great avenues, but they have all ended. Another end point of 10,000 paths. You are clearly standing at the end point of 10,000 paths. One step forward is the supreme goal, but you are willing to stop. She made the same choice as at the end of 10,000 Daos. She just used the fire of 10,000 Daos to create a state of mind. What state of mind is this? No change, the mood of no change, the no return state of mind at the end of 10,000 paths, enabled her to move forward resolutely in the face of the great terror in the dam. At this moment, this girl's unchanging state of mind, even the strange power on the other side of the dam, cannot make her transform into a dark creature. A group of secret supremes all spoke in shock. Good night. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1210. In the darkness of nowhere. I can't jump anymore, I can't go down anymore. The master dancer finished another master dance, and now he spoke angrily. He has lost to the being on the dark throne, for dozens of games in a row. The master danced dozens of times. Even the silent ones, the still ones, and the dark ones next to them were tired of looking at them. However, the one on the throne of darkness is still making him dance. This is purely to entertain him. If I couldn't beat him, I really wanted to overthrow the dark throne. No more? Okay, tell me, what are you doing here? The being on the dark throne smiled slightly. The dark jump master's face sank slightly and said, this matter has nothing to do with you. The being on the dark throne smiled when he heard this and said, okay, let's play chess. If you lose again, we'll do a striptease. Hearing this, the dark jumping master heard that the black veins on his black skin protruded, and he was extremely angry. Want to fight? Fine, if you lose, you still have to dance. If you don't dance, I'll strip you naked and throw you to the forbidden world for people to watch. How about that? The way of the dancing master. Why do you have to want to know? The being on the dark throne said, I want to know, and I have to explain to you why. Are you second or am I second? Huh. Hearing this, the dancing master went crazy. This guy on the dark throne is too much. Don't forget, I am the one who knows him best. The being on the dark throne smiled and said leisurely. If I take action against him, I will be more confident than you. Hearing this, Master Tiao shivered slightly and said, Are you willing to take action? The being on the dark throne smiled and said softly, Don't forget, I am also a dark creature. If he wins, I'll die too. Master Tiao pondered for a long time and still hesitated. Because, the person on the dark throne is definitely the most special dark creature. In the entire dark sky, only the Silent One can see through him. Even if the darkness jumps to the great God, he still has the ability to be ignorant. Facing him is like facing a black hole. Don't force me to search your heart and soul. The Silent One listens to your heart. You are ignorant. If I listen to your heart, you will be in pain. After all, I am not as strong as him. The being on the dark throne smiled. Hearing this, Master Tiao's brows jumped. He knew very well that although the person on the dark throne was weaker than Jizhe, he was supreme to all things. If the other party really wants to take action, the one who dances in the dark, can only stand next to him, and there is no way to resist. Suddenly, an idea occurred to him. The Silent One observes everything. If the Silent One doesn't want him to know, he will naturally stop it. The existence on the dark throne wanted to intervene, but the Silent One did not show up and did not stop it, which is enough to show that the Silent One might have acquiesced. The dark jumping god slowly raised his head and said, Do you know what your body is doing now? The being on the dark throne said. At this moment, he has no thoughts or feelings, his mood is empty, and there are no distracting thoughts at all. Well, he saw the Silent One. Hearing this, the Silent Ones and the Silent Ones next to them were all shocked. The body that exists on the dark throne, saw the Silent One? This is shocking news. Darkness and Beiwu, the strongest of the 24 camps, finally meet. Is he awake? Master Tiao then asked. The being on the dark throne smiled and said. You guess. The dark dance master said coldly. He should be half awake at the moment. Jizhe went to him not to kill him. He is an anomaly and cannot be killed. Even the power of the dam cannot destroy him. The only way to change this anomaly is, to make this anomaly obey the laws of the universe and become the second Silent One. The dance master was very direct and said. In the past, Jizhe was also controlled by his inner demons and tried to attack the dam. But in the end, he was able to achieve what he is today and has the best ability in the world, just because he killed his inner demons. The Silent One is here to break his inner demons. The being on the dark throne smiled and said. Oh? Inner demon? What is his inner demon? The way of the dancing master. All he cares about are his inner demons. The being on the dark throne whispered. So to break his inner demons, we have to destroy everything he cares about. But, aren't you afraid that he will go crazy? The dancing master smiled and said. What we have to do is not kill the people he cares about, that will only make his inner demons stronger. Killing does not mean destroying. The real destruction is betrayal, farewell, and powerlessness. The dancing master smiled and said. Throughout the ages, Jizhe has had the strongest inner demons. However, after betrayal, farewell, and feeling powerless, Jizhe's inner demons have all been cut off. For your Tao body, this is also the best thing. Hey Cutter! When the being on the dark throne heard this, he couldn't help but nodded and said. Good strategy. Destroying its origin is indeed useless, but destroying its state of mind is enough to eliminate all future troubles. He stood up and said lazily, "Lead the way. In the past, I took action and caused the hearts of the children of the 10 masters and 2 evils to collapse and die. To make them betray in this life, well, it is not difficult. Grey Mist Island. The supreme formation of Silent Kill failed, and in an instant, the entire Grey Mist continent was defeated like a mountain. The Huangtian alliance is now too powerful. Although Mu Jianing, Huo Ling Mu Wanqing, Wu Xiaoqan, and others have not yet become the Great Emperor, they are strong enough to challenge the Great Emperor. Moreover, there is a treasure obtained from a small mountain village in his hand. Even if Grey Mist Continent has the help of a great emperor like Mo Sha, they still can't stop it. I can't stop it? What to do? Hold on, the emperor has absorbed the origin of the Black Mist and is about to become the emperor of heaven. Many Grey Mist princes roared, but it no longer works. Moj, why don't you come out quickly? If you don't come out, your senior brother will be finished for me. Mo Sha, acting like a great emperor, blocked it alone. However, he was beaten by Mu Jianing and others until he vomited black blood and kept retreating. He directly crushed a black jade talisman, which was the treasure given by the Silent One to connect them with each other. But, there was still no response. Mo Sha and others kept retreating, and had already retreated under the Grey Fog Emperor's court. Moj actually didn't respond. No, I have to withdraw. If this continues, I will be out here. Kill silently and have the intention to retreat. Now, I am afraid that only the arrival of a strong man at the level of the Dark Emperor can control the situation. He is ready to leave. But, right now. Boom. Above Grey Mist Continent, in a hidden place, a huge grey stone gate suddenly appeared. The stone gate seemed to be in a non-existent space, and behind it seemed to be connected to a mysterious world. The Gate of 10,000 Daos. The Gate of 10,000 Daos has appeared. Are the beings in that gate going to take action? Which side will they stand on? For a moment, everyone was shocked. Even Zhang Shui waved her hand gently to stop the Desolate Sky Alliance's attack. Mazai, you are finally coming out. Mo Sha, on the other hand, spoke excitedly. One day outside, 10,000 years inside the door, 10,000 years of time, looking at the Supreme Avenue, I know that it must have reached a terrifying point. Even the Grey Emperor, who was heading towards the Dark Emperor, couldn't help but look back at the giant door. I will become the darkness. Seniors, you can follow me. He spoke directly. Then, under the gaze of everyone, the door finally opened. Inside the door, a brilliant light of wisdom lights up, making it difficult for people to see the world behind the door. A staircase composed of a great avenue stretches down from the colorful light of wisdom and extends towards Grey Mist Continent. In the door, a middle-aged man in black robe walked down the steps of the avenue. Every step he took was like a lotus flower evolving on the avenue, and there seemed to be stars of wisdom twinkling around him, making him look like a god. At this moment, many creatures had an inexplicable urge and instinct to worship him. Emperor. Seeing this, Mo Sha spoke in surprise. Moj has actually become the Emperor of Heaven. This is truly a great blessing. If it were in the outside world, it would probably take more than 100,000 years for Silent Kill to reach this point. But now, it only took him one day. He was envious and surprised. Tanzi, hurry up and kill the enemies. Silently speak up. But Moj walked up to Mo Sha, looked at Mo Sha, smiled slightly and said, "Good." Then, he suddenly raised his palm and blasted towards Silent Kill. Bang! Mo Sha's head was blown open by Moj. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1211. A dark world, along the road of time, continues to approach the present world. It has almost touched the barrier of reality, and is only one step away from integrating into reality. Grey Mist Island. Silent Kill's head was blasted directly. What happened? Isn't he the junior brother of Mo Sha? Why would you attack Silent Killer? Many powerful people in Grey Mist Continent were extremely confused. And the next moment, Mo Sha was reborn. As an emperor, he would not die so easily. Moreover, Moj did not resort to extermination measures. Mazai, what are you doing? Mo Sha spoke angrily. Mazai smiled slightly and said, Senior brother, do you know how I can give you a glimpse of the way of silence? Mo knows, kill all over the world. As soon as he finished speaking, Moj slapped him. Immediately, I knew that I had been blasted into a pulp. Then, not long after, he reappeared again, jumping up and down in anger, saying, Mazai, have you rebelled? You actually attacked me, Master will not let you go. Mazai still just smiled and said, Senior brother, do you know how I can give you a glimpse of the way of silence? Mo Sha roared, I caught a glimpse of you Before he finished speaking, Moj punched him down, killing the great emperor and being smashed into a meat pie. In the following time, similar scenes continued to play out. Although Moj was killed again and again, he was constantly reborn, because Moj didn't seem to have the intention to completely kill him, and he had a good sense of proportion. Every time he was reborn, Moj would ask the same question. Then, as soon as Mo Sha opened his mouth to speak, he was killed. Hey, it seems you still have a poor understanding. After killing for the 300th time, Mazai sighed and said, It seems that if I simply kill you, you won't have a long memory, well, I have to kill you brutally. Then, the silent killing began, the journey of being tortured and killed. He was executed by Ling Qi and had more than 100 million cuts. He cursed at first, but the further he went, the more he started to cry and beg for mercy. He was beaten to death, every bone in his body was broken, his death was miserable, and he was curled up without a human figure. He was executed by wooden execution. A large pointed pillar was stabbed from his back to his throat. He was hung up for a breath and fed him origin soup mixed with chili peppers. Finally, he died of despair. This scene left everyone in Grey Mist Continent and the Wild Sky Alliance stunned. Sister Xuanhuan, why don't we take action? The Grey Emperor is about to attain enlightenment. Mu Qianning was a little anxious. If they stopped now, it would be like giving the Grey Emperor the world. But Xuanhuan said softly, let him prove it. She has already seen the big black dog and so on. She obtained the world tree from Xuanhuan and others, and at the same time, she also learned about the big black dog's layout. We must wait for the Grey Emperor to attain enlightenment and become the Emperor of Darkness before he can usher in the arrival of the Dark World. In this way, Dehe Ge, Xuanhuan, De Guyuking, and others, as well as Yungzi and others who had been prepared for a long time, would have the opportunity to enter the Dark World. Pass through the Dark World and jump into the past to get a chance to survive. In this way, the two armies stopped strangely, watching all kinds of torture and killing silently killing. Moj, I'm going to hum you. 1,000 times of silent killing, he was reborn, yelled loudly, his eyes were red, and then he was killed. You are not human. He was killed. I have offended you. Brute. Traitor. Every time he was reborn, he would be tortured and killed if he couldn't even finish a curse word. Okay, I won't do anything for you if you take action. I'll kill myself. Resurrected for the 1140th time, Mo Sha cursed loudly and prepared to wipe his own neck. However, before he even wiped his neck, he was killed by Silent Killer. If you want to die, die. What nonsense are you talking about? Mazai shook his head. Finally, on the 1141st resurrection, Silent Killer was reborn, but with bulging eyes, he stared at Silent Killer without saying a word. He looked at the Silent One with hateful eyes, and then he committed suicide. After all, it would be less painful. Good. But Moji's eyes lit up, and he waved his hand, using an inch of Moji's flesh and blood to inject source power into it, causing it to be reborn. After being reborn this time, Silent Kill also committed suicide without saying a word. Then, over and over again, he committed suicide more than 1,000 times. Each time, there was silence. Moreover, his eyes became more and more numb, and the hatred gradually disappeared, and even wiping his neck to commit suicide seemed to become an instinct. The silent word has been fulfilled. Finally, after another rebirth, Mazai stopped Masha, and then said softly, "Brother, you and I can go back to see Master." After saying that, he left directly with silent killing. And that's right now. Boom. The Grey Emperor took the final step. He became the Dark Emperor. At this moment, in the world of heaven and earth, countless calamity lights and others swarmed in, thunder from the sky crashed down, and the energy of the earth turned into dragons, trying to kill the Grey Emperor. This is the wrath of heaven and earth. However, at this moment, the Grey Emperor's skin had turned as dark as ink, and 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes, forming a black curtain to resist the disasters of heaven and earth. Then, his own dark origin energy burst out, forming a great road, the Heavenly Emperor Road, extending towards the barrier of time in this world, to meet the arrival of the Dark World. The Dark Heavenly Emperor's Road touches the barrier of time in this world and provides support for that Dark World. Boom. Suddenly, the barrier of time in this world was broken. The rich dark energy like a tide rolled from the barrier of time and descended on the entire forbidden world. Not good. Darkness has fallen, the world will be destroyed. What should we do? Are we going to die? At this moment, the entire taboo 9 continents felt it. All creatures feel the instinctive panic and despair. Once, in forbidden 9 continents, just the existence of 10 black smokes had already made forbidden 9 continents breathless. Now, the Dark Emperor has appeared in this world, and he has also ushered in a dark world. This. Even Mu Jianing and others had serious expressions on their faces. Huo Linger was thinking and whispered. Perhaps the destruction of this world is destined to break and then to stand. All living beings in this world have been reflected in reincarnation. After this war has passed, they can also reappear in reincarnation. This is also the reason why they dare to let the dark world come. Reincarnation is the confidence, otherwise, the current world will be extinct, and fighting will be meaningless. The vast dark world begins to invade the present world. It was a dark cosmic floating soil, and on top of the cosmic floating soil, a dark empire was established. The endless Great Wall stretches endlessly. On top of the Great Wall, there are Rot slave soldiers wearing black armor, looking at the world indifferently. Wow, the dark world has appeared, follow me and rush to kill. At this moment, in the secret, there was a sudden and passionate barking of a dog, and not far from the world that had just invaded the real world, a group of young people were already ready to attack, and they were charging directly into the dark world at this moment. Long Zixuan's body was boiling with dragon blood, Kunpeng shadows were rising in the Taoist landscape, and martial arts were flying across the sky. Lu Rang is so green that one can't even see it. A shadowless grass stretches out from the Taoist landscape and seems to be able to cut through the sky. Tuguyuking, holding the phoenix heavenly brush, inspires powerful sword intent. On top of the sword intent, there is a pale fire, burning with the flame of the Suzaku. In the clear dust, the Zen light shines, and the Dozhan holy ape holds a fire stick in his hand, accompanying him, fighting heaven and earth, and he is smiling while talking about Zen, and lotus blossoms bloom on the shadow of the Bodhi tree. Wu Dade took out the molten gold ancestral tree from the Taoist landscape and turned it into a huge mace with thorns several meters long. Lin Zhuhan, channeling the energy of creation from heaven and earth, transformed into a shocking dragon and giant phoenix, walking on the underworld with talismans all over his body. At this moment, in the Dark Empire, on top of the Great Wall, a dark powerful man stood indifferently. One of his arms was broken. Behind him, there were many masters, all of whom were emperor level. He is the dark body of Emperor Xuanhuan. Now, he commands countless dark armies in the Dark Empire. Kill. The dark body of Emperor Xuanhuan said an indifferent word, and billowing fog surged out from the Dark Empire. In the Dark Empire, the ancient dark army is coming. On the rusty and dark chariot, there is a dark veteran, holding a dark spear with a powerful aura. In the sky of billowing black fog, there is a dark giant beast, roaring, opening its huge mouth, and roaring ferociously with its broken teeth. These are the creatures who once fought against the heavenly emperor's court and died in the darkness. They have all become members of this dark empire, and now they are launching an attack on the present world. Kill. Long Xuanhuan roared angrily, destroying a chariot wherever his punch struck. He crossed the river like a dragon and entered the battle formation. Du Guyuking, Wu Dade, and others also went forward one after another without fear. At the same time, the Huangtian alliance in the rear also came to kill them all. This is an unprecedented melee. Damn, it's so fun. It's a pity that the other three ungrateful people are not here, otherwise it would be even more fun. Wu Dade waved his mace, knocking over pieces of dark wrought slaves one after another, and spoke with some regret. Among the four inappropriate people, only Lin Zhuhan was there. However, although Lin Zhuhan's ability is against the heavens, he tends to go retrograde to kill immortals, fight single targets, and use the good fortune to kill great masters who are far beyond his realm. Killing enemies on a large scale, the strongest ones are Ziling and Zhongli. Although the Wild Sky Alliance is now very strong, it is still too weak facing the entire army of the Dark World. Junior brother Dade, I'm here. But, at this moment, a voice sounded. I saw that the sky and the earth were suddenly filled with dense chess lines. In the sky, a young man stood in the clouds. He used a Xuanhuan as a chessboard and dropped one piece after another. At the same time, a piano sound suddenly sounded, and the south wind also appeared. The two of them came hand in hand. The heavenly wolf and the divine bloodgrass directly took the peach root's oil, well water, etc. in the small courtyard and flew to Nanfan, entering its Taoist scenery, helping Nanfan make up the foundation, and an improvement occurred on the spot. On the other side, the 9-turn treasure bamboo also flew into the Jiangli Dao scenic spot. The two of them upgraded at the same time when facing the enemy. The war rages on, and Zhuzhu is in chaos. The battlefield stretches directly from in front of the Great Wall to the entire Forbidden World. The flames of war are burning in the world.